Terrifying tales of cursed highways, 13 spine-chilling encounters with sinister forces exposed. The clock struck midnight as Sarah's old car sputtered its last breath, the engine choking on the desolate stretch of Highway 14. No streetlights lit her path. Instead, the moon hung like a voyeuristic eye, peering down upon the highway known to locals as a gateway to nightmares. Legends whispered through the town spoke of restless spirits, travelers who vanished without a trace, and malevolent forces lurking in shadows, waiting to claim the unsuspecting. With darkness closing in, Sarah's heart raced. She reached for her phone, her lifeline, but the tiny screen showed only desperation, no service. Panic gripped her stomach like a vice. "Where are you, Emily?" she murmured, fighting back choking dread when her phone buzzed unexpectedly. It was a video call. Emily's wide eyes filled the screen. "Mom." Her daughter's voice trembled, a lilt of terror unmistakable. "There's someone in the house." The sight of her little girl's face turned pale and ghostly made Sarah tremble. Her mind raced, conjuring 1,000 worst-case scenarios. "Stay quiet. Lock the door," she shouted, yet her voice felt like fragile glass breaking under the pressure of an unseen weight. The old diner's fluorescent lights flickered in her mind, and the glances from regulars morphed into cold stares. Friends? Could they really be trusted? Outside, the silence thickened like fog, wrapped in an eerie hush. Shadows danced just beyond her windshield, shapes moving with purpose against the glimmer of her headlights. Was something watching her? The radio fizzed to life, barely intelligible. "Beware the cursed highway, so many have vanished never to be found." Each crackle burst brought her deeper into a labyrinth of fear. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With no plan, adrenaline coursing through her veins, Sarah gunned the engine. Trees flanked the road, their skeletal branches reaching out like bony fingers yearning to snatch her away. Every mile she drove felt like a battle against the grotesque manifestations of her own imagination, twisted faces hidden within the foliage, eyes glinting like shards of glass. She clutched the wheel, knuckles white, awaiting the imminent scream of tires over gravel. The memories of her life rushed back, Emily needing new shoes, rent due, laughter shared over greasy burgers. But now shadows whispered promises of dread wrapped in familiar voices. Were those the police lights flashing up ahead or something much more sinister? Sarah veered off the highway, desperate to escape, yet the encroaching woods loomed darker than the path behind her. The air grew thick, suffocating, overflowing with fear. And then it hit her, the choice she made to trust those smiling faces at the diner. The weight of betrayal hung around her neck. As she inched toward what seemed like safety, a blood-curdling scream tore through the night, the sound echoing through the woods like a soul snatched from life. Was it Emily? Panic turned to dread. With every breath, she felt the darkness fold around her, the true monsters haunting her, not in the shadows on the highway but in the very lives she assumed were safe. As another blood-chilling scream pierced the air, she pressed the pedal down, her heart racing against the ticking clock. Was danger closer than she dared to believe? Was the line between friendship and betrayal blurring in the stifling darkness? In that eerie midnight hour, the question haunted her: how much more of this terror was real, and could anyone truly save her? From the very community she thought she knew? The headlights sliced through the gloom, but Sarah felt as if she were driving into a wall of night. Her breath quickened, each intake a stark reminder of the dread clutching at her chest. "I need to get to Emily, I need to get to her," she whispered to herself, willing her car to move faster. Just then, something darted across the road. An animal caught in her light, or something more sinister lurking amongst the trees? She slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching against the gravel. Heart racing, she peered into the darkness, but only the endless black stared back at her. The radio crackled again, its voice like a haunted whisper. "You're not safe on the highway, they're coming," she fumbled, twisting the dial, but the message sank deep into her bones. Something was out there. Watching. Waiting. With a deep breath, she honked the horn several times, hoping to attract help or scare off whatever stalked the night. The sound echoed, swallowed by the oppressive silence that followed. No response. Just the wind rustling through the trees, sounding unnervingly like low whispers. Panic surged. Was this the moment the legends came to life? She thought of the faces in the diner, their smiles now wicked memories. What if they weren't merely soul-deadened townsfolk? What if they were the monsters? She glanced nervously at her phone, still no signal. "Calm down, Sarah," she scolded herself, forcing a shaky hand to steer again. She needed a plan. Turning back to Highway 14 felt like inviting the darkness in, yet pressing ahead meant venturing further into the woods. Which way was worse? As if responding to her turmoil, the trees closed in tighter, their branches snaking against the roof of her car, casting ghostly shadows. Each thump of a branch made her flinch. Were they alive? Were they reaching for her? And then came a tapping sound, soft at first. A rhythmic patter against the windshield, gentle but insistent. She stilled, eyes darting to the glass. There it was again. Someone or something was outside. She could see a faint outline, pale and thin, made eerier by the moonlight. "Who's there?" she cried, her voice shaky. Silence engulfed her question, thick as the dark. The tapping stopped. Only the wind drummed in her ears, but then, a pair of eyes blinked into the light, a reflection. A woman stood there, a fleeting figure warped by shadows, her mouth moving as if speaking, but no sound reached Sarah. "Emily!" she screamed, imagining every horror unfolding on the other side of the call. With a shaky hand, she turned off the engine, the purr fading to an unsettling stillness. Fate forced her to step out into the unknown, fueled by a primal urge to protect her daughter, a force stronger than the fear clawing inside her. As she opened the door, a shout erupted from deep within the woods, sending a cascade of crows into the night sky. The woman vanished in an instant, leaving only an echo of terror behind. "Emily!" she shouted, her voice cracking like ice breaking. Was this how it would end? One last frantic plea swallowed by the darkness? But as she stepped further into the oppressive night, she felt many eyes drawing nearer. Were they friend or foe? Every instinct screamed to turn back. But what if Emily was in danger? The rustling grew louder. The tension thickened like storm clouds, heavy and dangerous. She swallowed hard. There was no turning back now. But what awaited her ahead? And just as she inched forward, believing she glimpsed movement among the shadows, she heard a voice familiar, haunting. "Mom?" Sarah's heart stopped. A part of her hoped, while another part trembled with dread. What awaited her? Was it Emily, or something far more sinister? Her breath caught in her throat. Was one truth about to unravel only to reveal another twisted lie? "Mom?" The word hung in the air like a chilling fog, wrapping around Sarah tightly. It sounded so much like Emily's voice, yet there was a strange, echoing quality to it, as if coming from a great distance. "Emily!" She called out again, the name clawing its way from down deep in her throat, panic fueling her voice. The darkness trembled as she took a tentative step forward, the night whispering all around her like unseen phantoms. Tree branches scratched at her arms like clawing fingers, but she pressed on, drawn by that single, desperate word. The rustling intensified, shadows flitting just out of view, darting between trees. Something moved quick and silent. She could feel it. It was near. Emily! She yelled, her voice breaking. The fear clawed at her throat, tightening, squeezing until it hurt. She strained her ears, desperate for another answer, hoping that her daughter was within reach, that familiar laughter hiding in the shadows somewhere, but the only response was silence, thick and suffocating. Taking another shaky breath, she squinted into the darkness, trying to see beyond the trees. Was that a form? A figure? Fear squeezed her heart, painting her thoughts red with doubt. And then she saw it, a flicker of movement, colorless and thin, a rope specter gliding between the trees. The figure paused, and she caught a glimpse of familiar features. Emily? But even as she spoke, something instinctive told her not to move closer. There was a wrongness about it. The figure seemed just a bit too elongated, the face too pale, the smile just a touch too wide, stretching unnaturally as if it were painted on. "Come play with me, Mommy." The voice was soft but sounded too cheerful, the cheer of a child layered with something dark and hollow. Sarah's stomach twisted as she took a step back. "No, you're not my Emily," she shouted, her mind racing through grotesque possibilities. At that moment, a low growl rolled through the woods, vibrating in her chest like a warning bell. The trees rustled with renewed energy, and suddenly, dark shapes began to slip from between the trunks, a horde bathed in shadows, their eyes glinting like knives against the dim light. Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her, as if it wanted to swallow her whole, and she staggered back, cold sweat trickling down her spine. Her breath quickened, panic surging. This was not a game. Whatever these things were, they bore no resemblance to her daughter. A creature broke through the underbrush, its bark-like hands reaching out toward her. It was grotesque, its face a grotesque mockery of human features, with a wide grin that seemed to split its head in half. The eyes glimmered with a hunger that chilled her blood. Something primal screeched inside Sarah. She turned, her feet propelling her away from the horror. The woods roared to life as they pursued her. Branches scraped at her face, thorns tore at her skin, but adrenaline coursed through her veins, pushing her forward. "Emily!" She screamed again, but her voice was lost to the cacophony of her heart pounding in her ears and the scuttling of whatever hunted her. What would she do? Hide? Run? No options felt safe. She skidded to a stop, glancing back. Every shadow seemed to breathe, each eye drawing closer with malevolent intent. A guttural growl erupted from behind, and as her eyes widened in terror, she turned to run deeper into the woods. A twisted path of horror lay before her, each step drawing her closer to secrets she wasn't ready to face. But there was no choice. She had to know if Emily was lost in this dark maze, or if it was all a meaningless chase, a trap destined for her doom. Just then, through the chaos of branches and whispering voices, another voice echoed. Soft yet urgent, it commanded her attention. "Mom, help!" And with that final, desperate scream, the forest shuddered, and Sarah was plunged into an abyss of terror. Was it really Emily, or another lure meant to drag her deeper into the night? As she raced into the darkness, her heart pounding louder than the growls behind her, the woods closed in once more. She could feel it, the weight of shadows, the breath of horrors just behind her. What lay ahead could change everything. But when she took that next step, bracing for whatever darkness awaited her, she heard laughter, sickening, twisted laughter echoing all around her. What if she didn't find Emily? What if she found something worse? The laughter wrapped around her, a grotesque melody that danced in the air like a noxious fog. It slithered through the trees, thickening the darkness, pushing Sarah to run faster. The shadows swarmed, shrouding her in a cloak of dread. Heart racing, she fought to shake the laughter from her mind, the sound, twisted yet strangely familiar. But which part of her past had come back to haunt her? Branches, long and taloned, snagged at her clothes and flesh, each tear a reminder of the nightmarish world closing in. She bolted down the uneven path, her footfalls echoing through the darkness, drowning out everything except the sharp gasps of her own breath. "Mom!" The voice again, pleading yet sinister, curled around her thoughts like smoke. Emily? Sarah's voice cracked as she chased the apparition deeper into the woods. But was it truly her daughter who cried out, or just another trick played by the thing lurking just beyond her vision? Every step felt off balance, as if the forest was shifting to keep its secrets hidden. What had once been her sanctuary turned into a hellish labyrinth. The laughter faded, replaced by the gnashing of teeth and whispers that seemed to be calling her name in a mocking chorus. Her legs burned, but she couldn't stop. With every ounce of her will, she plunged further, desperate to find her child. But then she stumbled, tripped over something buried beneath layers of leaves and decay. She fell to her knees, splintered twigs digging into her skin. Panic surged as she heard the growl again, deep, rumbling, and hungry. Sarah scrambled to her feet, but the breath of the entity chasing her was hot against her neck. "What do you want?" she cried into the darkness, as if the forest itself could respond. Silence engulfed her briefly, thick and choking. Then, a series of growls erupted all at once, reverberating through the trees, an answer incomprehensible but clearly understood. She ran, pushing through the veil of hysteria, when suddenly she spotted a flicker of light, bright and inviting. It broke the gloom like a beacon, a promise of escape. With renewed determination, she surged toward it, branches parting as if the forest was guiding her. Yet as she approached, the comforting glow twisted into something frightful. It revealed a clearing where trees slumped like defeated soldiers. At the center stood a well, a deep gaping maw shrouded in darkness. Shivers danced down Sarah's spine. "Jump in, Mommy," a voice whispered again, the chill wrapping around her heart, constricting it. She staggered back, terror freezing her limbs. The well beckoned her, the darkness swirling at its edges, a formidable counterpart to her fears. Out of the shadows, ghastly forms began to emerge, twisted configurations of what she once loved. Her husband's face shattered into shards of agony, Emily's silhouette shimmering and reshaping, flickering like a broken digital screen. "What have you done?" Sarah moaned, covering her mouth as the reality shifted, blending the monstrous with the familiar. "Come." The forms beckoned, their mouths stretching into horrific smiles. The emptiness behind their eyes reflected back her worst nightmares. Just then, footsteps echoed close behind, heavy and relentless. They were coming for her. Sarah dashed back, her heart racing in tandem with the insatiable growls. Yet she couldn't look away from the well, the dreadful voices reassuring her, luring her closer. In a moment of clarity, she realized the truth. Each choice was a step deeper into the darkness or a chance at survival. But time was running out. She had to make a decision: dive into the unknown or face the creatures that whispered her name. The growls intensified, and she could hear them crashing through the underbrush. With one last glance at the well, a flood of dread washed over her as she prepared for whatever lay ahead. What fate awaited her in the shadows? And who would she become when the darkness finally claimed her? Sarah hesitated, the echoes of her own fears pulling her deeper into their grasp. The well's charm morphed into a grotesque allure. Just stepping closer felt like surrendering her very soul. The growls, now deafening, snapped her back to reality, making her gut twist in turmoil. "Emily!" she screamed, her voice cutting through the heavy atmosphere. But instead of an answer, the forest responded with nascent whispers, words lost in the confusion as the growls replaced her cries. Turning, she made a break for the thick foliage, hoping to outpace whatever monstrosity hungered behind her. Branches scraped against her skin like jagged nails, tearing at her clothes and drawing warm rivulets of blood. She darted through the trees, desperation fueling her as the laughter returned. It surrounded her, echoing eternally, each note a dagger. Just as panic threatened to consume her, the laughter morphed into a high-pitched wail. Sarah stopped dead. That sound, that infantile cry. It was Emily. But where? Mommy. It was coming from a direction she had just fled. Confusion clouded her thoughts. She couldn't turn back, she couldn't risk the creatures waiting in chase. Yet her maternal instincts tugged at her heart with an urgency that felt like a vice. "Stay with me," she called into the blackness, each syllable punctuated by her panicked breaths. The forest held its breath, and for a fleeting moment, silence blanketed her fears. But the stillness shattered as something in the underbrush stirred, a low growl inches from her ear. Terror ignited anew and she broke into a sprint, the path twisting beneath her feet. The shadows grew thick and whispered, eager to ensnare her. Thoughts spiraled into a chasm of nightmarish scenarios that clawed deep within her. Would she ever find her daughter? Would she survive this nightmare? Branches snapped behind her right on her trail. She could feel the heat of breath trailing close, too close. A wild rush surged through her, she was driven by pure instinct. With every step, she battered the fabric of her reality, blurring her memories of safety and swirling them into horror. "Mommy!" The voice grew sharper, desperate, almost pleading. It was an echo, unrelenting, luring her in. She faltered for just a moment, racked with uncertainty. Heart pounding, Sarah took a chance. She swiveled sharply, running where the voice beckoned, trusting in what she hoped was true. As she stumbled through a thicket, moonlight broke through the canopy, illuminating a small clearing. And in its center, bathed in silver, lay a figure. Instantly, her heart surged. "Emily!" she cried out. But as Sarah rushed forward, hope turned to stone. The girl stood motionless, face half-turned. Her features twisted between recognition and dread. Those familiar eyes were hollow, a chilling darkness swirling in the depths. "Mommy, help me!" Her voice turned raspy, both a plea and a warning. Suddenly, the growls crescendoed once more, louder, fiercer, echoing the shrieks of the night. Shadows crept closer, encasing the clearing like a vice, eager to claim both mother and child. "Run!" Sarah shouted, grabbing Emily's hand, but the girl felt weightless, drifting farther away. What had she become? This wasn't her daughter. "Stop! Don't leave!" The wails consumed her. The forest echoed in chaotic harmonies, each sound layering terror upon terror, a cacophony of despair that threatened to collapse her mind. As she yanked Emily's hand harder, darkness erupted around them, claws grasping from the void. Sarah fought to break free, but the monstrous laughter rang in her ears, paralyzing her. "Quick! We need to go!" But the forest pulsated with shadow, erupting into a howling gale that threatened to sweep them both away. Moving together against the tide felt impossible. Panic clawed at Sarah's throat. The well, those gaping lips of despair, hung like a specter in her mind. "Mommy, jump in with me," whispered the ghostly voice again, seeping into her soul. What truth lay hidden in the depths? Would a leap of faith save them or condemn them both to the horrors below? With time running out and shadows closing in, Sarah took a deep breath. The choice was hers, a choice that could unravel everything she thought she knew. But would she have the strength to face the darkness that awaited below? Everything hinged on this moment. The shadows clawed at Sarah, relentless and savage. She could feel them wrapping around her legs, pulling her back toward the darkness. The howling wind grew louder, a banshee's wail merging with the growls that echoed beneath the forest canopy. Every fiber of her being screamed for escape, yet every instinct urged her to reach her daughter. "Emily!" she cried again, her heart hammering like a trapped beast. "Hold on to me." But the girl was slipping away, fading into the fog that thickened around the clearing. The laughter returned, higher, more discordant, reverberating through her skull. It was mocking her despair, the sharp notes seeping into the very marrow of her bones. Sarah stumbled forward again, willing herself to reach Emily, to grasp her frail, familiar hand once more. But just as she nearly reached the girl, the shadows surged. The ground before her cracked open like a chasm, dark and gaping, the abyss beckoning both her and Emily. A monstrous figure loomed at the edge, its eyes like smoldering coals glowing with a hunger that made Sarah's blood run cold. "No! No!" she shouted, backing against the now encroaching darkness. As she tried to pull Emily close, a terrible realization struck her. The girl shivered, her form flickering like a flame caught in the wind. Was she really there, or just an apparition crafted by the forest's cruelty? "Mommy, help me." The rasp in Emily's voice cut into Sarah's core. It was both heartbreak and horror. "Let us go!" Sarah screamed, clawing through the mist around them. The shadows writhed, coiling and twisting like serpents ready to strike. Every instinct told her to flee, yet fear kept her rooted. "Emily, I'm right here." But Emily stood still, a spectral image trapped in a web of deceit. Her eyes, once filled with warmth, now held only an icy void. "Mommy, jump in with me!" Panic surged like poison flooding her veins. What did that mean? Was this reality or a trick meant to ensnare her? Sarah's heart raced, the world smashing into fragments of light and shadow. The ground beneath tore apart as the voice slithered into her thoughts. It promised everything she ever wanted, spoke of powerful truths hidden below. What lay in the depths? Would it give her daughter back? Would she become whole once more? "Don't listen. I'll save you!" she shrieked, lunging forward against the tide of darkness, her hands grasping at the nothingness Emily seemed to dissipate into. Just as her fingers brushed what she thought was her daughter's arm, the chill overtook her. The laughter crescendoed, a symphony of torment melding with the growls, creating an orchestra of despair celebrating her loss. It pierced through every corner of the forest, echoing back to her in waves of mockery. With one last effort, she hurled her body forward. The shadows pressed closer, the darkness coiling like a noose. "Hold on, Emily," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. And then, in a flash of blinding terror, the clearing erupted. The ground shook. Branches rattled and howled as shadows burst apart like an anguished scream, enveloping her in night. An icy grip tightened around her throat. Sarah gasped, the air thickening with despair. A sensation of falling engulfed her. In the split second before the void claimed her, one thought pierced through the chaos: was leaping into that abyss the only way to bring her daughter back? As darkness swallowed Sarah whole, a whisper lingered in her mind, a chilling promise wrapped in fear: you wanted the truth, but truth has its price. What awaited her in the depths? What horrors lay in the dark, hidden truths of the well? Sarah's descent felt eternal, a spiraling abyss swallowing her screams. The darkness crushed around her, dense and claustrophobic. She was spiraling through a world devoid of sound, the laughter fading into a silence so profound it made her ears ring. Was she still falling? Or had she landed in a place more twisted than the forest above? When the ground finally jolted her awake, she gasped for air, her lungs burning as if the very atmosphere conspired against her. She lay on cold, damp earth, struggling to orient herself. The air tasted like ash, and shadows clung to the edges of her vision like a nightmare refusing to fade. "Emily?" she moaned, panic flaring anew. She pushed herself up, her fingers sinking into the mud. It was dark, but as her eyes adjusted, she saw the remnants of a place once vibrant. Desolate trees stood as silent sentinels, their gnarled branches twisting overhead like fingers reaching for an absent sun. A faint glimmer caught her eye, drawing her forward. It was a tiny white marker poking from the ground, almost resembling a grave. She kneeling, her heart thudding painfully in her chest. The name etched on the marker sent a jolt through her, a spark of recognition. A child, lost like Emily. "Please, no," she whispered, feeling the weight of despair pressing on her shoulders. This was the place where the lost came to rest, where little voices were snatched away by the hungry earth. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath her, and the laughter returned louder and closer as if echoing from every shadow. Sarah backed away, pulse racing, her eyes darting around for a clue, a path. But all she found were more markers, each one a memory of innocence extinguished. "Get away! Leave me alone!" She screamed into the void, but her voice seemed swallowed by the darkness. Her breath caught as she spotted a flicker in the distance. A light. Hope surged as she stumbled toward it, but with every step, the shadows seemed to stretch out maliciously, grasping at her ankles, whispering sweet poison. Emily's face flashed in her mind. She clutched at her heart, the struggle to remain brave pushing her onward. "I'm coming!" she shouted, unwilling to let the memory linger in sorrow. The light flickered and grew, leading her to a patch of strangely lush grass deep within the oppressive gloom. Tall, slick grass, wet with dew, surrounding what seemed to be a twisted tree, alive in a way that felt aberrant. Hollow eyes among its bark stared blankly, seeming to know her struggle all too well. As Sarah reached the base of the tree, she felt an unnatural warmth flooding her, a pulse emanating from its core. "Emily!" she cried, leaning against the bark. "Where are you? I can't lose you." In response, the shadows writhed and shifted, forming into a vague silhouette of a girl. It was Emily, flickering like a flame, caught between dimensions. "Mommy!" she cried, a distorted echo that tugged at Sarah's heart. But there was something wrong. The warmth from the tree entwined with a cold dread, tightening around Sarah. She could hear laughter again, almost choking her, gleeful, mocking, as though the tree laughed too, feeding on her desperation. "Come play, stay." Emily's voice faded, replaced by the twisted chorus of new shadows creeping closer, pulling at her spirit as they loomed. "Run!" Sarah's instinct screamed, but where to? The shadows danced, taunting her with Emily's apparition. What if it was a trick? Yet, the primal urge to save her daughter surged stronger. With a keening roar, Sarah turned, sprinting toward the trees. But no matter how fast she ran, no matter how desperate the pounding of her heart became, the darkness morphed, shifting and folding in upon itself like a creature of its own that would not let her escape. "Truth has its price," the light whispered, enveloping her mind. "You wanted everything back just when hope seemed lost." The flickering light of Emily flickered brighter. "Mommy, please." And then, just behind her, came a crash, the ground splintering violently, darkness roaring. What unleashed horror awaited her now as she careened back into the depths of her despair? In the silence that followed, her resolve darkened. What would she sacrifice to save her daughter? What if the truth was buried within the shadows, waiting to be uncovered? With one final surge of energy, Sarah raced forward toward the light, willing to embrace whatever darkness lurked within it. But was it too late? The world around Sarah twisted and roared as she fought to keep her footing. Her mind raced, grasping at the fragmented memories of Emily. The crash behind her echoed in her ears, blending with the sinister laughter. She could feel the ground shifting underneath her, a vile pulse that throbbed like a heartbeat, as if the very earth was alive, hungry. "Mommy!" The cry pierced through the chaos, the flicker of her daughter's spirit illuminating the darkness just ahead. But that light was fleeting, and with every heartbeat, the shadows crept closer, coiling around her ankles with a grip like iron. "Hold on, Emily!" she shouted, her voice straining against the weight of terror. She dashed toward the light, desperate to reach her daughter. The trees around her loomed closer, the barren branches reaching out, scratching at her skin, mocking her efforts to escape. She could almost see the flicker of Emily's light wavering, pulsing with every step she took, like the last spark of hope in a dying fire. Suddenly, the laughter morphed into whispers. They curled around her, slithering like serpents. "You can't leave," the shadows tittered, voices overlapping, rising and falling as if they were a single monstrous entity. "She belongs to us." "No!" Sarah screamed, anger surging. "She's mine." Each exclamation burned with determination, the fear fueling her resolve. She pushed harder against the encroaching darkness, her breath coming in gasps, her heart racing like a drum demanding to be heard. The ground shuddered again, a deep rumble that shook her to her core. An eruption of darkness split the earth beneath Sarah's feet, a chasm opening wide. Rough hands of shadow reached for her, pulling her back. She stumbled but managed to regain her balance, her body propelled by sheer will. Then, at the edge of the chasm, she caught another flash of Emily, a mirror reflection of her child trapped between dimensions, her face stricken with fear. "Help me, Mommy." Emily's voice rang crystal clear, cutting through the haze, filled with all the love Sarah felt and a sadness deeper than the abyss. The warmth radiating from the tree pulsed again, now a desperate beacon in a storm. Sarah dove toward the light, her heart pushing her onward, on the verge of breaking apart. "I'm coming," she cried, but the shadows hissed back, the laughter growing more frantic, more wild. Suddenly, the chasm yawned wider, and screaming faces manifested from within. They were blank, hollow, eyes reflecting only despair. These were the true essence of the lost souls, swept up in the tree's hunger, doomed to wander endlessly. "Join us!" they howled, the desperate echo of their torment crashing over Sarah like a wave. But then, just as quickly, moments shifted. There was a gleam in the dark, a flicker that drew her gaze. A path made of light formed between the looming branches. "Emily!" Sarah shouted, running toward that beam as the shadows screamed in protest, their grasp on her wavering. Yet, with every step, she could feel the ground turning beneath her cold, clammy fingers closing in, lacing their malice around her ankles, trying to drag her back into the depths of despair. Just as she reached the glowing path, a deafening roar erupted. The tree shuddered violently, its bark disintegrating into a flurry of ash and whispers, and the voices screamed louder, cascading into a frenzy. "You cannot escape. The truth demands a sacrifice." Sarah's heart raced. What kind of truth? What would she have to give up? The silhouettes of little children emerged from the shadows, their eyes wide with hope for her. "Mommy," they all whispered, a haunting chorus, begging her to save them. "Emily." She felt her resolve chipping, every ounce of courage waning as she neared the light, knowing now that the truth had a ferocious grip. Could she face whatever it unfolded, or would she be yet another soul claimed? Would she dare to reach into that light for her daughter even if it meant surrendering her very self? In that moment of fragile hope, a branch snatched hold of her forearm, pulling her back, splintering her very reality around her. It was visceral. It was cruel. "What you've lost must be paid for," the darkness hissed, drawing her deeper into the abyss as it feasted on her fears. And Sarah could only scream into the void, uncertain if her sacrifice would save Emily or consume them both. The shadows shuddered, rippling around Sarah like boiling water. Clawing hands tugged at her, relentless and wicked. Fear roared in her ears, drowning out everything else. "Emily!" she screamed again, desperation thickening her voice. The ground felt alive beneath her, pulsing with malevolent energy. She could almost hear the heartbeat of the earth, a slow, taunting rhythm that echoed her own frantic pulse. 100 lost souls surrounded her, their hollow eyes gazing up at her with chilling yearning. "You can't leave," a child's voice croaked from the darkness. "We all wanted to go home." "No," Sarah cried, jerking away from the suffocating embrace of shadows wrapping tighter around her legs, dragging her back. They weren't just voices, they were echoes of longing. But she couldn't give up on Emily. Writhing against the grip on her body, she focused on the flickering light ahead. It came from the heart of the tree. It pulsed like a beacon, shimmering, almost beckoning her closer. She tore through the fray, the darkness recoiling as she reached for the light, a luminous path shimmering between twisted roots and gnarled branches. But with every step, the laughter returned maniacal, shrieking a cacophony wrapping around her mind, trying to tear at her identity. "What will you trade?" it chanted. "A soul or a soul? What do you mean?" she shouted, an answer forming on her lips as an unbearable weight crushed down on her chest. Images flashed in her mind, Emily smiling, baking cookies, running through the park. But alongside those bright memories were shadows of neglect, nights spent working late, moments lost in the mundane instead of cherishing time with her daughter. "No," Sarah gasped, shaking her head fiercely. "You can't take her. I won't let you." The shadows flinched, but they tightened their grip with renewed frenzy. Tendrils of darkness curled around her arms, pulling her back toward the chasm. She could see the abyss, darkness swirling with angry faces, mouths agape in cries of need. "Mommy!" The voice seeped into her thoughts, mingling with the taunts of the shadows. "Help me!" The light in the distance flickered again, more erratic this time. In its brightness, Sarah saw images of what could be the two of them, laughing together in a world untouched by darkness. With renewed determination, she surged forward, every fiber of her being pushing against the encroaching void. With her heart pounding, she lunged. The world exploded into blinding light around her, momentarily overwhelming her senses. Breathtaking warmth enveloped her, and for a moment, she felt safer. But the whispers were back, low and dangerous, clawing at her reality. "Join us," they hissed, slithering around the edges of her consciousness. Something cold grazed her cheek, a child's touch. Startled, she whirled around, eyes searching the eerie gloom, yet finding nothing but churning shadows. "Emily!" she yelled. "Where are you?" "Mommy, I'm here," the tender voice echoed, clearer this time, mixed with the suffocating darkness. She could barely breathe as the shadows wove tighter around her, squeezing the air from her lungs. With trembling hands, she reached for the luminescent path, clawing for a way forward. "Let her go." Suddenly, the light pulsed violently, a heartbeat of its own. The ground trembled beneath her, resonating with fate's cruel promise. "Give to receive," it thundered, throbbing through the earth. A decision loomed before her. What was she willing to lose? "No!" she bellowed, clinging to the last shreds of hope. But as she stretched toward the light, it flickered again. It beckoned her, yet also threatened to swallow her whole. Would she have to surrender the very essence of her being, or could she snatch Emily back unscathed? With that thought anchoring her gaze, she stepped onto the glowing path. And the shadows screamed, their furious roars echoing through the night as darkness and light collided. But as she moved into the warmth, an icy hand grasped her ankle and pulled, dragging her back into the chasm's depths. The truth, the voices shrieked, whispering. Promises that slithered past her resolve. "It demands payment," Sarah screamed. Would it be too late to reclaim her daughter from the clutches of despair? As everything around her swirled into chaos, she felt the light dimming, urgency clawing at her heart, the darkness ravenous at her heels. "What do you want?" she shouted defiantly into the void, voice quaking. "What do I have to do?" And just before she was swallowed by the inky black, a single voice surged through the turmoil, clear and resonant. "All of you," it sang, a chilling melody. What revelation lay waiting on the other side of the darkness? The world fractured around Sarah as shadows writhed and threatened to implode under the weight of her terror. Time felt suspended, her heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. The tree loomed like a dark titan, its roots twisting in anticipation, as if it craved her surrender. "Give everything or lose all," the haunting voices echoed, swirling around her like a tempest. Breathless, Sarah clutched at her heart, desperate to hold on to her essence. The twisted apparitions of lost souls encircled her, their hollow eyes full of despair, pleading for escape, demanding a price, her price. "Emily!" she screamed, her voice cracking under the pressure. "I'm here for you." But the shadows loomed larger, eager to snatch her words from the air, twisting them into despair. It was unbearable. Every child's face echoed in her mind, mingling with the warmth of her memories and the chill of their pleading eyes. A realization crashed over her: the darkness didn't just want her physical presence, it craved her heart, her fear, her guilt. It wished to claim her completely, to see her surrender all she ever loved. "No!" Sarah shouted violently, shaking her head as if she could physically strike the thought back. I will not let you take me. I will fight. Summoning every ounce of strength, she flung herself toward the pulsating light, the promise of hope blooming like a flower amidst the blackened trees. The brightness blurred her vision, each step forward accompanied by unseen hands gripping at her ankles, thorns and tendrils clawing, gnashing teeth from the chasm pulling hard. Mommy! The voice called again, unmistakably deeper, clearer. The flicker of a form danced in the edges of the light. Help me. I'm right here. Hope surged through her, fierce and wild. How could a spectral reflection shimmer so vividly in the darkness? The answer was beneath the surface, a truth she couldn't let unravel. Please! She cried, hold on to me. The shadows screeched. The last threads of her sanity dangled precariously as she leapt forward, reaching out into the light, into the warmth pulsating in the tree's heart. In that instant, everything surged, a blinding rush of emotions, vivid flashes of joy cutting through the dark. She remembered camping in the backyard, making s'mores, the day her little girl learned to ride a bike, the laughter shared over bedtime stories. With each loving memory, a piece of her soul buzzed with clarity, the warmth illuminating dark corners of her mind, dispelling the shadows lurking there. Take what you need, but not from her. Sarah howled against the cacophony. The laughter morphed again, bitter and twisted. From the thick knot of shadows emerged monstrous faces, contorted in rage, and they howled, drowning out her words. The weight of despair pulled her down, but she refused to break. No! She screamed, feeling the light grow brighter in her chest. You won't take us. With renewed vigor, Sarah pushed forward, the darkness collapsing in around her. The shadows hissed in protest, angry whispers mingling with the cries of lost children. And then she saw it, Emily, visible within the brilliance, floating just beyond her reach. Mommy, help! Her daughter was nearly swallowed by shadow, an echo in the dark. Sarah's heart ached. This was the moment, the crossroad of all she had. With a desperate cry, she lunged toward Emily. I won't lose you. In that heartbeat, the shadows lunged as well. They howled and shrieked, howling furiously, grasping at memories, longing for the warmth they had lost. Stop! Sarah's voice trembled but rang with strength. You've taken enough. We won't be yours. The light exploded, and Sarah felt herself merging with it, the remnants of despair shattering around her like glass. She reached out, capturing her daughter's flickering form with one last, fierce grasp. Together! She shouted, drawing Emily into her embrace. The light enveloped them both, burning away the darkness, and for a moment, they floated, suspended in a brilliant void. The very essence of love poured into her veins. It ignited a flame deep within, a blazing resolve that refused to be extinguished. The world swayed, shadows recoiling from the brilliance as they faded into nothingness. Together, Emily whispered, warmth blooming as they found themselves standing at the edge of the clearing once more, shades of the forest retreating and howling in despair. Sarah looked deep into her daughter's eyes, a spark of defiance ignited. They were whole again, rekindled with the spirit of their bond. Let us go home, Sarah said, taking Emily's hand, their hearts beating in unison, strong amidst the lingering shadows behind. They turned and began to run, breaking into the cosmos of darkened trees, racing through the branches toward dawn, the first rays of light peeking through the horizon. Each step felt lighter, defiantly marking their escape. As they ventured from the haunted woods, laughter diminished, the howl submerged beneath a blanket of silent defeat, echoes swallowed beneath the weight of truth. But in the heart of that darkness now lay clarity, a promise unbroken. And Sarah understood now that the darkness would always linger at the edges. But it was love, resilience, and unwavering spirit that kept her grounded, and it would guide her path through the shadows forevermore. Before you go, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help spread the word. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Your thoughts matter. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Together, let's keep the chills coming.